welcome to the Cultivating Calmness Podcast. My name is Kaela Vance, and today I just want to talk a little bit about my weekend and how we kind of utilize self-care and the things that we do to help ourselves and to kind of fill our cup. So this past weekend, my family and I celebrated Easter, and it was a really nice weekend. It was sunny here in Ohio, and I think we did end up getting some rain, but in between the rain, the sun was out. It wasn't freezing. It was pretty nice and warm, and I was able to bust out the shorts and t-shirts here, so that was really nice to be able to do. And I had an enjoyable weekend celebrating the resurrection of Jesus, and also being able to enjoy what God has provided for us, and being able to start my medicinal garden. So I had a lot of fun being able to do that, and I just thought I would talk a little bit about that today and how you can do the same thing for yourself. So self-care is something that is talked about a lot. And as therapists, we talk about it, and therapists are encouraged to, take care of themselves and practice self-care as well. Anybody in a helping profession is strongly encouraged to practice self-care. But really, what is self-care? Well, it's in its basic form, it's taking care of yourself. But how do we do that in this world today with all of the things that we have to do? We have all the things that we have to do, the things that we need to do, and then those things that are left up for us are kind of like tacked on to the end, like, well, if I have time. And self-care is really about sometimes trying to make the time and to put in the effort to give yourself time. So sometimes we tend to think like, I don't have enough time, but if we looked at our day and you maybe thought about writing down, or kind of like a food diary, if you wrote down all the things you did in the day, for example, if you wanted to see how much time am I actually spending on my phone, you might go to the screen time watcher and see like how much time, screen time tracker, and see how much time it's telling you that you're spending on your phone, to determine, all that time, where is it being spent? That time that I don't think I have, am I possibly spending it on my phone? Maybe doing some not so needed things, but where I go to kind of check out, and it feels like it's relaxing and it feels like it's a good thing for you, but really in the long run, it's eating up all that extra time that you have. And I can be guilty of that myself. Sometimes getting in trouble with, doing that instead of having conversations or, engaging when I could be, because admittedly, it is easy to kind of get sucked into the world of social media and scrolling and just kind of wanting to check out. You spend all day talking to people about things, and you just want to be like, oh, I'm done thinking about other problems and other things needing to be solved and needing to be heard. I just want to explore and look at other stuff that's not so important. Sometimes I'm just really interested in learning other things and learning new things. So I follow a lot of natural health pages, and I'm often learning about and exploring new things and ways of doing things differently, healthy, in a more healthy way, in a different way. So I can get sucked into that trap there. So it can be one of those steps in addressing, where is your time going, and where could you put your time more effectively so that you have some of that you time. What does you time look like? What does self-care look like? It's different for everybody. Self-care is different for everybody, and I can't say for you what that might look like. For me, that might include things like taking a bath and watching a movie, and it could look like scrolling on my phone. I like to listen to audiobooks. I listen to more audiobooks than I do read books currently. So I like to be able to do those things while I'm doing other things, such as maybe doing the dishes or when I'm driving, rather than maybe listening to the radio, although I do that. Sometimes I just want to listen to a book, and especially if I find a good book, I'm listening to that book until it's done. And sometimes that happens rather quickly. Sometimes it can take me a while to get through a book. It just kind of depends on the mood. Or if I'm gardening, I like to put on audiobooks. Some people are really into podcasts, so they'll turn on their favorite podcast and they'll listen to that while they do other things. So I find that that is a somewhat relaxing thing for me to do when I have to do other things. I really enjoy gardening. Even so, this weekend it was sunny out, it was nice out. I saw the opportunity and I was like, I'm gonna get outside, I want to get the sunlight. So I really do enjoy getting out in the sun, having the sun hit my face and my arms, and just being out there and feeling it. Even if it's a little chilly. I was out there barefoot, so I like grounding. I like being in it, in the dirt and in the grass. And so my feet were covered in dirt. Didn't matter, where I really was, but started in the front yard, planted some flowers, foliage. Hopefully those will start to pop up soon and I'll get to enjoy those. But I pulled a lot of weeds. So a lot of weeds are medicinal. So I did take some time this time. I did it right after the rain, and I was able to pull out a lot of dandelions. So if you've ever pulled dandelions, if you've ever tried to use them medicinally, the root is really important. The root has a lot of benefits, and they can also be really hard to get out because they can get very long and they can be very thick. The bigger or the older they are, so those ones, if you try to pull them out and you only get the top, well, the root is still in there, so that's going to grow a dandelion. Sometimes it feels like you need a giant shovel just to get that giant root out of the ground. But if you do, that root can be very helpful for you, really beneficial, and you can use it in teas, detox baths, and things like that. You can eat the sunflowers. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing that, or the dandelions, excuse me. I wouldn't recommend doing that if you don't know where they've come from, or if you don't know anything about the yard or the pasture or wherever they're coming from. So in my yard, we don't spray, we don't do anything like that. So I don't have a problem with picking the dandelions from our yard, but I wouldn't be picking dandelions from anybody else's yard, because most of the people I know spray their yard, especially like public parks and things like that. They're typically spraying, so you don't want to get those chemicals in your system if you plan to use them medicinally. But people do pick the flowers and then they fry them, they eat them, they can use them in teas. I've seen dandelion lemonade. So there's lots of ways that you can use all parts of a dandelion. So I did a little bit of that this weekend, saved all parts. I didn't save a ton of the flowers. I do have a bunch in my yard, haven't gotten all of them. I wanted to leave some of them for the bees to get to, so I tried not to pick any of the newer ones that were obviously still growing. I waited till they were fully bloomed, picked those. They're currently in a new drying rack that I bought. I do have a dehydrator, but that tends to need to run, and it takes forever. And it's kind of loud and creates heat because that's what dehydrates the plants. So I bought a net. It's like this big around, it's actually probably bigger, a net with like 10 layers, and it's really big. And I put all my dandelion parts in there, and I plan to use that this summer to be able to produce more than I could with my dehydrator, which I still plan to use, but just trying to mix it up and see what might be most beneficial. So I was able to do that as self-care. And at first you might think pulling weeds is not very self-care like. It allowed me time to listen to an audiobook. It allowed me time to just be out there in the dirt, kind of seeing my work. And so I had this small little patch I was trying to work on, and I was there for an hour, and I got most of it cleared out of all the weeds, and a lot of dandelions. And then in its place, I created a new garden. My kids came out and they were like, "Dad, Mom made another garden." So I have one full, really long garden that's all strawberries. I have another full, really long garden along the other side of our house that is all of my other stuff. And then I try to work in some of the medicinal plants here and there wherever I can find them. I had a little box that I put potatoes in for a couple years. I tried it. Haven't been very successful with growing potatoes, so don't know that I'm going to try that this year unless I find a new method that might be more effective. but I planted a lot of chamomile last year. I think I had 6 plants, if I'm not mistaken. This year, there was some that self-seeded, and so it was all over in that weedy patch. So I was trying to pick out the chamomile from the weeds, and I was setting them aside. And then once I got a big enough patch, then I started making rows of chamomile, putting some bigger plants in one area and kind of going down into the smaller plants. And I still have a giant patch that I haven't separated yet, and I'm kind of out of space. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. If I might find another spot for them, or if I might give them away or do something like that. But I have a lot more chamomile. So hopefully this year I will grow a lot of chamomile, and I will be able to produce a lot of the chamomile flowers and use those in teas and tinctures, or be able to sell them, donate them, give them away. Haven't quite decided what I'm going to do. Sometimes I just like to grow things and see how much I can grow and then decide what I do with it. So I'm really excited about that. So that patch I'm feeling very proud, and they seem to be doing well. We've had a lot of rain here, and we're going to continue to get some more rain, and then unfortunately maybe even snow. So I might have to cover those up. I'm not sure how they're going to do, but that's something that I do for self-care. So for you, what does self-care look like for you? Maybe it means going out with some friends, scheduling time. Maybe it means going out with yourself, going to a movie on your own, going to a restaurant on your own, going to a tea shop, going for a walk, taking the dog for a walk, going to the Humane Society and just petting some animals, taking a bath, getting a nap, drinking a cup of coffee alone, right? There's so many things you can do for self-care, but it's really about what is going to fill your cup up, what's going to bring you pleasure, what's going to make you feel good and feel empowered and feel like I now have enough energy to pour out into somebody else. If you don't feel like you're able to pour into anybody else, your cup isn't full, and you don't have enough going on inside you to be able to help and do the other things that you need to accomplish. So I hope this gives you a little bit of an idea of some self-care, some things you can do. Winter is now turning into spring, so we're starting to see that nicer weather here in Ohio, hopefully minus the tornadoes, and it's an enjoyable time for me to be able to get outside. So I like to spend as much time outside as possible. If that sounds like you, not only the benefits that we get from the sun and being outside in fresh air, but that could be part of your self-care. I hope you enjoyed your holiday, if you celebrated Easter this weekend, and that you're staying safe. And next week is going to be the solar eclipse. I'm really excited for that. My family and I are going to go watch that somewhere with some friends, and hoping that, fingers crossed, we were able to see it and it's a really good experience, and that you enjoy that too. And maybe we'll talk a little bit about that next week and see how it was. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you for joining me.